It's great.
Women in leadership, how to be inclusive leader.
Online.
We are online. Anu, say
Oh,
hi.
okay. Okay. Hi. And so we start today's discussion. Do I need to go? I think we know each other, so I think we'll skip the introduction part for today. I think we know each other very well, and we are seeing each other every week now.
Yeah.
Yes, so we move into our discussion today. So we're going to look at, we're continuing with our discussion on inclusive leadership and looking at the role of women in inclusive leadership and also women leaders and their work and how they impact, especially in the community work which is being done. I think many of you are into the community work, right? So we'll follow the same format where I think each one of you can speak, and then we'll have a round of question answers. So shall we just do a recap of what inclusive leader was and what our understanding is? Because over a week, uh, we would have gone through some links or kind of assimilated what we had discussed last time. So Nancy, do you want to start with what your understanding of inclusive leadership was from our last discussion?
Yeah. To, in my understanding, that was the kind of leader that
Hmm.
inspires a sense of belonging from
Hmm.
every team member. So it's not only about looking at diversities in terms of disability and all that, but also looking at
Hmm.
bringing in a sense of sharing from every team member. Different ideas are accepted and,
Hmm.
and considered. Yeah. So it's more than different sort of groups of people into
Hmm.
just listening to different ideas from different people. And I
Hmm.
think you also, yeah, one element you also mentioned is that it needs to be situational. You must consider what leadership style works for what, in what
Yeah.
context. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah, that's a very important point actually, because I think when we closed last time, the question was also that, if you're all the time asking people and, only getting opinions, how do you take decisions and move? There could be certain situations where you don't have time to take so many opinions from people. So, like you rightly said, it's more a situational, you have to decide where to use it. Broadly, having an inclusive leadership style, but you also need to have those styles where you can lead a team. You should be able to lead the team into a consensus, into a joint decision, and sometimes certain situations where you will have to take a decision at the same time, have the team feel that they are part of that decision. So I think that's a skill which needs to be built. Svitlana, what is your
It's very difficult question for me. It's still very difficult question for my understanding because I had conversation with one of the representative, one of the embassy, a foreign embassy representative in Ukraine, and he
hmm,
asked me about Svetlana, what does it mean for you?
hmm,
Inclusive leadership, and he said I don't understand what does it mean. And
hmm,
I said, my answer to him was, I don't understand for sure also. But
hmm,
what I know and what I feel that inclusive leadership is totally different from hierarchical leadership.
hmm,
And for me, it's inclusive leader is person who who understand the value of each, who involve for example, if you talk about local community, inclusive leader is person who understand value of each who are living in this local community and who believe and trust to group opinion, because usually hierarchical leader, we call this strong leadership, when person know, and we hope that this person know everything,
hmm,
and
hmm,
this type of leadership ask from community trust to his or her own opinion, only one opinion. Yes, and inclusive leadership, inclusive leader play like collect puzzle, like each person person who are living in a community, like small piece of puzzle, and leader collect, understand it, and collect this puzzle like together, fix whole opinion together and believe it. It's and it's my understanding. Maybe I'm wrong, but it's still for me.
Yeah. So you're not wrong, Svetlana. So there is definitely that element is there where an inclusive leader um, is effectively can get people. That means those people are those different puzzles which you're talking about and break it into one big puzzle.
Mm-hmm.
So as a leader, so you have different puzzles. Okay, like if you, for example, if you imagine a 3-year-old child with a box of puzzles, as a parent, you will guide the child little bit, you know, which direction to take. You won't do the puzzle for the child, but you may give directions, very
Mm-hmm.
broad directions, saying that okay, I think the head should come that side, and then the child figures out, you know, in the head. Or you may say what all comes in the head. The eyes will come, hair will come, forehead will come, eyebrows, and you leave it at that, and the child will then try to figure out, you know, these are the various parts, and that forms the head of the puzzle. So it's the same style that an inclusive leader very broadly gives a guideline and encourages people to come up with ideas to work within that guideline.
Mm.
Okay, or there is a goal and a guideline is given and these people work together. However, if there is an emergency, a disaster,
Mm-hmm.
okay, an inclusive leader should be able to also say that yes, I am inclusive, I take the team with me, but I should also be able to take a decision, because at some point the team members or your, you know, they look up to somebody to take that call because it's an emergency call. There is no time to sit together and discuss.
And what I heard right now is that it means that inclusive leader have strategic vision
Yes.
and must be able to share or to have a gift to people of his or her strategic vision.
Yeah, so definitely, you know, because otherwise there is no vision, and as a group, you're just trying to find out solutions for what problem. So as a leader, you need to give a certain vision saying that, okay, as a team, this is our vision, or this is, or maybe together you do a visioning exercise and say that our goal is this. How do we envision reaching that particular
Mm-hmm.
thing, you know?
Mm-hmm.
So you value people's opinion, and at the same time, you're able to give them that little direction to, you know, close a certain thing. Also, an inclusive leader, from what, you know, my own understanding of this, is somebody who's also very humble. So if there is a mistake, or if the leader doesn't know something, will admit that I don't know this, I will find out and I will come back. Or you
Mm-hmm.
know, it's not somebody who is scared, because, you know, on the contrary, like you said, hierarchical is somebody who will never admit that I've made a mistake.
Uh-huh. Okay, it means that in one of the it's very very important that inclusive leader doesn't afraid to make mistake. Yes.
Yes, and does not make mistake, to admit that yes, there was a mistake. Let's look at what can be done.
Okay, except ethic mistake, I think.
Accept,
Except
accept the fact, because everybody makes mistake, but not, you know, there are some people, some leaders who will blame it on team members or say somebody else made the mistake, and they, even if they made the mistake, they don't admit it. So here is one of the qualities of an inclusive leader is to be humble, and if you have taken a decision which is not gone right, then to say that yes, there was an error, but I will find out why this happened and will come back with a solution. So you don't just say I made a mistake and leave it at that, but you also say that I'll try and find a solution.
great.
Anu, my only
Yeah.
concern about what,
Hmm.
how will the leader be perceived if they were that inclusive and they were a woman? Will they be perceived as a weak leader? Do you think
Uh,
women leaders are forced to be a bit more aggressive and less inclusive to prove that they can
uh,
actually do it? Because if you keep on consulting, involving, people think you're weak and undermine you. What are your thoughts?
So Nancy, like what I was saying, you can't always be getting inputs from people. There are certain situations where you have to take a decision. Having said that, and when you're talking about women, aggression is again, coming from a state of forcing a certain view down, which maybe first time, a couple of times people will agree, but it is not coming from the heart. And at some point, there is a revolt against aggression. Whereas being assertive, so at certain points you need to be assertive. At that point, yes, one has to be, whether you're a male or a female leader. So assertiveness is a skill which is required. So even in a group, okay, people will have different views. Three of us are having this discussion. If we have very varied views and we don't agree on something, uh, having one person who will give, make us look at some way in which we come to a common point is also important. So whether you're a male leader or a female leader, being an inclusive leader doesn't mean that you give away that particular responsibility. So assertiveness is a skill. So being an inclusive leader doesn't mean that you don't have other leadership styles of leadership. It's a balance, is what, in my opinion, you need to have a balance.
Yeah, thank you. Yeah.
And I have a question. It seems like inclusive leadership is more nature for women than for men, because women is carrying of family. It's like it's her nature to operate a group of people, and man is more a hierarchy because he's responsible to how to say to give direction of family or women for women and children what they must to do. And I think that for women it's more nature to collect opinion from a group. And could we say that inclusive leadership is women's style of leadership or not?
I will throw the question back at you, Svetlana. What do you think?
No, I don't know, but we can say, but I don't know about what scientist says about about it. Scientist says about it. I don't know, because inclusive leadership is really new term for me. Really new term. It's really new term for Ukraine. And because I met term facilitative leadership, maybe it's very close to, maybe it's totally the same with inclusive leadership, but it's really new style of leadership for Ukraine.
Okay. Nancy, your view, what do you think, is inclusive leadership a natural style for women vis-a-vis man? I think, Svetlana, that's your question, right?
Yeah, normally I will have said yes, but from current articles that I'm reading, people are moving away from sweeping generalizations of women are this way into looking at women as individuals, because apparently all these preconceptions we've made about women being this kind of leader is somehow holding them back. Because now when they're in management or in leadership, they have to prove they are not what they're expected to be. They are not consultative. They have to prove they are tougher than what people think they are. So at the end of the day, researches I've seen being posted imply that although they are women, they have different kinds of leadership styles. Not all women are consultative. Not all women are motherly. So I'm trying to avoid making those sweeping generalizations. But yeah, initially I would have said yes. This seems to be more a motherly sort of type of leadership. Yeah.
Okay. Okay, that's a very interesting point you brought also, Nancy, about the generalization which we make. Before I come to that, just one point: I wouldn't say inclusive leadership is a motherly form of leadership, because when we put that category, then at some point, yes, motherly means we are nurturing certain things, but from my understanding of whatever I've learned on this style of leadership, it's a very powerful form of leadership. It is different from, being an authoritarian kind of a leadership. So, and here you have a more thing of where you were able to lead a large number of people. Even if I had to take, a case of Mahatma Gandhi, okay, I would have thought that his style of leadership to a large extent would have been a inclusive kind of leadership. He had a certain vision, and he conveyed that vision in a very non-violent manner to the entire population, not just in India, even in South Africa, he could do that. And people went along with it. In different parts of India, the movement started, and it's a non-violent movement which started. So I would think that's the spirit which an inclusive leadership looks, where you are able to convey a certain sense of strong belonging. Not every time you need somebody to tell you that, okay, this is my organization, I need to do it in this way. Whereas it comes from within your heart saying that, yes, this is my thing, and I can do this and I can achieve it in this way, or whatever. That's the way I would look at it. So I don't see inclusive leadership as being something which is weak. As for women, yes, to a large extent it comes naturally, because empathy is a very high emotion which women tend to have. So being an inclusive leader may probably come a lot more naturally to them. Having said that, yes, work situations and most of the other places are very male dominated, so the culture has been prescribed by the way men work, which is why this whole issue of how do women fit into that kind of an environment comes, and where the struggle is on, should you be authoritarian, should you be aggressive, should you be assertive, all those kind of questions come into the thing. So I think it's for us, and being intuitive, so a lot of women are very high on intuition. So you can actually judge, and in a situation, how do I need to behave? And that's the thing which we need to go by. That's my opinion. Svetlana, do you want to comment on this?
And what I found in your speech is that inclusive leader can operate it more wide group than hierarchy leader, or maybe I'm wrong.
Actually, we can't compare, like because, for example, if I had to look at hierarchical or somebody who's authoritarian, there are so many, like even that link you shared of, Nancy, you can correct me, about Julius Nyerere. I mean, he also was like, while he started from a certain style, then he moved into a slightly more aggressive form of leadership style. But, sometimes through aggression also you will force people to go with you.
Or maybe inclusive leadership is more spiritual style of leadership. Spiritual, I mean, like
spiritual,
yes. More humanity, maybe.
Yeah, it's more humane style of leadership, but at the same time, it is effective for the simple thing that you take along, people with you, rather than forcing something down somebody's throat, and saying that, hey, you have to do it in this way. That's my understanding. So we are having a broad, I'm not an expert on this topic, let me clarify that. I'm also doing work, and I'm researching a lot on this particular topic, and building inclusive culture.
You build this culture in India, yes? Is it part of your job?
Yes, it's part of our job to build inclusive culture. For example, women who are after pregnancy, when they come back to work, okay, how can you build an inclusive culture that they feel that immediately like they belong to this organization, rather than having to prove that I am as good as I was before I went on maternity leave? So what kind of an environment can the organization create to make them feel that I'm part of this, and I'm not an external person just because I've gone on maternity leave?
Anupama, and I have a question to you, because your organization called In Harmony. It means that inclusive leadership help to reach harmony in local community, yes?
Yeah, so yeah, it just means inclusion. In Harmony typically means inclusion. So whether it's leadership style, whether it's just like, the normal functioning thing. And we work mostly with corporates. We haven't done community work as such, you know. So we work with companies.
Okay, and what ways you use to teach people inclusive leaderships?
So most of the time we use facilitation, which you are already doing. Okay, so we make them go because you know we make them go through facilitation to understand first of all where are the biases which come, because even for being an inclusive leader you have to have basically you're respecting each and every individual. But it's difficult for us. Having said it, it's very difficult because each one of us has our own experiences with different types of people, different genders, regionality, ethnicity, all those things. So we look at those kind of things, you know, what are the biases, how they impact us when we come to our workplace, you know, how it impacts certain decisions that we are taking. So the way we work is that we make them go through a whole experiential uh, exercise to address some of these issues, and also to make them see, you know, how being a leader who can keep these things aside helps the business itself.
And yes, Nancy,
Nancy,
Oh,
you,
yes, I'm with you. I've just pasted the questions you raised in that email.
I could
That,
not read that. Can you just repeat that? I didn't.
oh yeah, I've pasted on the group chat the questions that Sweetlana had typed when she was sending us the link for this meeting.
Ah, okay. How women can
Yeah,
make positive impact on local community, right?
yeah. Is there a feminine management style? Yeah.
Yes,
She raised,
yes,
yeah,
yes. Yeah, so
yeah.
that's a very interesting topic. Nancy, you have something to say on feminine management style.
I don't know. Yeah, that's what we had. I think we had even discussed it earlier. Yeah, I've been reading about it and I'm seeing people are moving away from generalizations.
Hmm.
Yeah. But it's such a I don't know what to think about it personally because I will have personally I will think some traits come easily more easier to women than men: intuitiveness, empathy,
Hmm.
consultation. So I will have said those are the qualities women seem to portray that are very good for leadership.
Hmm.
And there are some traits also men have that are very good for leadership. They are more risk takers and all that.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah. So, yeah, it seems women, I will have said women have a different kind of leadership style to what men have in general. Yeah.
And I think that's the whole advantage of why we should have diversity, isn't it? Because
Yeah.
we have different styles, and which is why, you know, men and women working together for a cause makes a lot more sense. I mean, even in a family, a traditional family, okay, or even if it's a family where you have the same sex partners also, there is one person who has a slightly more feminine quality, okay, or in a family you have a father and a mother, and you bring up the family, you bring up your children, because each one brings a certain, I think, a certain attribute which is very important to the functioning of that particular institution.
Yeah, and I think upbringing has a lot to do with these traits that come out in people, in men
Yes,
versus women. Yeah,
yes.
and my personal thoughts are, yeah, sometimes we should not just brush these differences away. We are not saying everyone is this way. We are just saying most show these personality traits. Yeah.
Yeah, yeah, absolutely. And you're right. Like, you know, Nancy, we can't generalize anybody saying, because there are women also who are more authoritarian and autocratic in their style of leadership. So we have women leaders we have seen who are like that. So it's not necessary just because you're a woman that you will only have this style of thing, or just because you're a man that you will have only a, you know, a hierarchical or a authoritarian style of leadership. You may have a softer aspect. So generalization is difficult. I completely agree with that, and it's not fair to generalize anybody. But I think what we need to see is that, you know, it's the best way to get a combination of both.
Yeah.
and what I find in Ukraine is that most of top leaders are men, and maybe we can call this operation management. in operation management is in a women part, in the women hands.
So when you say operation, what is the role that they do?
It's mean routine. Routine. It's most women in Ukraine operated by routine work. Men most like on the top, under this this level. And I don't know how many years Ukraine needs to change this situation. But now we understand that a role of woman is not very important on inclusive leader level.
Svetlana, like when you say that the women are mostly like, when you say operational, I think what you mean is mostly the support function and they're not heading departments, ministries, etc. Okay, why, in your opinion, why is it like that? What could be some of the reasons?
I don't know what is the reason of this, but maybe it's nature of Ukrainian women, or maybe tradition came from Soviet Union time, and we are still covered. We are still covered by Soviet Union style of leadership. But everybody knows that Soviet Union was in women hands, because middle level of management was covered by women, and top level was covered by men. This
yeah, I think that's the case for most countries, though. That seems to.
Nancy?
Oh yeah, I was saying that seems to be the case for most organizations, though. So I don't know if it has anything to do with the Soviet Union. It seems like, I think that's why people came up with this glass ceiling sort of analogy to describe how women, you'll find nowadays, when you look at colleges and universities, according to numbers, there are more women in graduate schools than men. In the offices, there are more women in support roles than men. But somewhere along the way, it seems like they can't get beyond a certain level for, I don't know for what reason. I don't know your case for India. I think India seems to be very progressive in terms of women, given your leader in Indira Gandhi. I don't know if things are different there.
So go ahead, Svetlana. You wanted to say something?
I want to ask: is it true? Oh no, it's India has different situation from Kenya and Ukraine.
No, I wouldn't say so. We have our own struggles also. We also are struggling for women to get that recognition. So, if I look, since my work is mostly in the corporate sector, so we may have at entry level, that means immediately, yes, in colleges, like you're saying, in graduate, we have a lot of women graduates now. Almost half of the graduates are women, which is a huge increase from what it used to be before. Even when they join organizations, in the new joinees, say 30-40% are women. But when they reach the mid-level management, okay, which is probably when their age is they must be around 30 years, or when they are reaching just that middle management level, there's a huge drop. It falls down to like from 30-35%, it comes down to maybe 11%, 12% probably. And then at senior most leadership, then you have around 5% who are at heading organizations, who are in the board of directors of companies, etc. So what we have seen is that in that middle level management, there is a huge drop of women. And it's not just that they are not getting the opportunity, it's that they themselves leave work. So a lot of effort is being put being done by organizations like us to see even catalysts. I had connected you last time. So they do a lot of research to see why is it that women leave. What can companies do to make sure in terms of their policy, in their work environment, in creating this inclusive environment, okay, where women don't leave in that crucial period, middle management, they continue with their work, and so that they can break that glass ceiling which you were talking about, Nancy, and reach the top. So that's the situation here. We also have a lot of other, if you look at the community level and all that, there are a lot of issues of domestic violence and abuse of women, etc. So those are other realities which exist. We have same struggle like you all. Okay, in fact, we've been trying to fight for certain reservation in our parliament to have women represent so many % of women representation. That still hasn't got passed. So we have similar kind of struggles where women are concerned. So I think it's almost a global issue.
Yes, I agree. It seems like it's a global issue for sure, and I try to see to look forward and understand what trends we can find in the world in next maybe 5-10 years. What changes, what trends now we can find?
I think you're asking me what trends we can find. I think we should see more. We should see the impact of our dialogues spreading across, and it should be a movement. I literally see that because I want it to be like a movement, where people will see. There's one thing where your environment provides you facilities, but there's also, I think, somewhere deep rooted is our own as women, the kind of upbringing we have. Okay, there are certain roles in our mind we have that, these are the kind of roles that I can do, or I can, as a leader, this is how I should behave. There are certain things we also bring within ourselves. So can we break that thing within ourselves first and foremost?
Yeah, it's true, because I was reading somewhere that women sometimes hold themselves back.
Yes.
Yeah, and another thing is not everyone desires to be a top manager. So some people, when they get to middle level, they find it is a better work-life balance than being a senior. There's less pressure, so they prefer to hang in there.
Yes.
And it's interesting also, I was reading a lady who was proposing, instead of all these women and leadership trainings, we need to look at gender and leadership trainings.
Yes.
Because all this training to women on how to be leaders, you're preaching to the converted. So the better way she was recommending this be done is through gender and leadership sort of courses and training and talks and discussions, so that men also can appreciate the role of women and see that women are not trying to steal their jobs, because that is always a concern. But that we can, there is better value when we partner together as men and women.
Absolutely. In fact, large part of our work is on gender sensitization. When we do a gender work, we do gender sensitization where each men are sensitive to the the male gender, and the same thing for the men also to appreciate. So sometimes each one of us doesn't know what is the kind of message we got as kids, what kind of a mindset each one of us has grown up with, and why we are behaving in a certain manner. To appreciate each other and work together, and like you said, remove that insecurity from the men's mind also, that there is a certain reason why both are going to be working together.
Agree.
So in what you were asking about even Ukraine thing, I think it's something which maybe these kind of sensitization workshops could help.
Yes, of course, and thank you for Catalyst link, for Catalyst organization link. And today I have first free webinar about inclusive leadership.
Oh, you have? Oh, wonderful.
Yes, I signed, and today and the rest of the day I have first webinar. I recommend it everybody because it's free.
Yeah.
at first, and
Yeah.
but at the same time, not everything free is good for people. But let's try what happened and what I understand right now. And it would be great if through our activity, online activity, we will collect or find as much as possible positive uh, results from different parts of the world. How new style of leadership, if we can say inclusive leadership, it's a new style of leadership. It's how new style of leadership influence on local community. How this style of leadership influence of positive influence on people. And it would be great to show differences between, or understand, first understand, and second show differences to the world about hierarchical leadership and other type of like modern type of leadership. What is difference and how people, local community change under this leadership, how people change under this style of leadership. And I think it would be great if we find as much as possible examples in the world or organizations in the world who influence on local communities, not only in Kenya and Ukraine and India and Poland. It would be great to find as much as possible countries results.
True. True. Nancy, any views
on inclusive leadership?
On any style of leadership?
Oh yeah, for me, I think what I'm picking is that it is a situational kind of leadership. As much as possible, involve people, make people feel like their opinions are valued. I think it's for me, it's a really good type of leadership, but situational depending on the context, so that we can't really get an example of someone we can say they always apply inclusive leadership. But we can get examples of people we can say, this person usually applies this style of leadership, yeah? Because it depends on the context and the situation. So I find it to be a really good applicable model.
Yeah. And so I was also reading, based on Svetlana, the question which you had posed, on feminine leadership style and women leaders in community work. And so I was reading up on this whole thing, and what I'm realizing is that feminine leadership is a very important part, or even like if we extend it and look at inclusive, for the kind of community work which you're doing, because my understanding, I've got very limited community work experience other than in my, university days when I worked with communities. Is that, because you're doing a lot of transformational work, you're helping to develop people in creative ways, in depending on what the situation is. So when you look at that, I think to a large extent, this the facilitative mode of leadership becomes very important. That's my view, but I'd really like both of you to comment on it, because you both do a lot of work in the community level.
And what I found in Ukraine is that I work as a facilitator in different type of local communities and businesses right now, in organizations and companies. And people love inclusive leadership. People love facilitation leadership. It's more convenient for people right now. And it's not difficult to engage people to local management or local operation management on local level or organization level or business level. It's great, but what problem I found right now is that traditional leaders or hierarchical leaders or traditional leaders must change for sure. They understand it, they must do it or have to do it, but it's very, very difficult for them. It's very difficult, it's very painful for them. And maybe we must think or find special program or special training for changing, like how to change without painful or more softly, to change old style of leadership onto new style of leadership, because um, people needs new style of leadership. They love it, they accept it for sure. And I don't know any program for hierarchical leaders except maybe a program, special program of leadership in business school or traditional education. And I never met special program or special training how to change style of leadership, because maybe nobody knows what does it mean modern style of leadership. Maybe it's not very well articulated right now.
So there's something which, we can all co-create something on new forms of effective forms. I think more than saying new forms, I think it should be effective forms of leadership, what really works. And I think more and more what we see from, when you look at the global situation, people are wanting to break from authoritarian kind of leadership. They no longer want to be dictated on how their life should be led. That the democratic way of functioning is becoming more and more, that's what people want. So if there are leaders who are effective in taking on the new requirement, I think it makes a lot of sense to do. Nancy, your thoughts on this?
Yeah, I think I agree with both of you that times are changing. People are more educated, they feel more empowered, they want to have a voice in decision making. So even if you wanted to retain the authoritarian kind of leadership, you will not last for long. We need to, I think people are being forced to move with the times. I'm thinking right now of our traditional kind of leaders, the village elders we used to have, where they will just tell people, this is what you need to do, without explaining why, how, Yeah, but now people cannot stand for that type of leadership. Things have changed. So it's a painful process, I'm sure, but things have to change now. And I think it's also that balance of knowing what really works well, because you don't want to be, it depends. Sometimes ideal is so different from reality. I was just thinking when Svetlana was talking, yeah? You want to be a more inclusive person, but in a regime full of corruption and lack of transparency, as a leader, some things you have to manage. For example, financial aspects and all that. So it really needs to be situational to be realistic, because some of these places, if you allow people to give opinions, you'll never move forward. Number two, if you leave people to manage their different departments, you might have a problem with corruption and all that, and it will all come back to you as the leader. So yeah, it's good to listen to opinions and all that, but also in a situational kind of way.
So that's why, Nancy, I'd just like to make the correction. So, while opinions and the fact that people feel they belong is important, but as a leader, you can't give up your role as leading a team. So if you are leading and you have all these departments, like corruption is a big thing in most of the countries today. There is an issue of that. If you're leading a particular country or say a particular organization, there are certain values which you have to lay down very strictly, that these are the values that we will follow. And as a leader, you should also be, while you may take opinions, but if you find that something is not going right, you should also have the courage to take a decision to say that, this is not right and I'm not going to take this anymore.
Yeah.
That is very important. So you cannot have, there is no leadership if you're only taking opinions from people. You have to give a direction and you have to lead. The word leadership means you are leading. So that leading element cannot miss from this.
Very true, yeah.
Agree with you.
Yeah, that's absolutely important. So you have to be at the top. You need to know what is happening for sure. But at the same time, you have to allow people to kind of, bring out their best to contribute. But if you, when they, you realize that there is something which is not going as per the values that are laid down, then you have tough calls have also got to be taken by the leader.
Yeah.
Right? So it's not only about being the most popular person, it's also about being the right person. It's also about doing what is right for the whole organization. You're
True.
responsible for that. You're not there to stand just to say that everybody should say, oh, he's a great guy or a great girl.
And I want to say about Ukraine for sure that hierarchical leadership or authority leadership passed away. It's still in the past, or how to say, it's now in the past. And now we have very difficult time of transformation. And it doesn't matter you are man or woman, but all of us is under the transformation. And what about Kenya and India?
Nancy?
Yeah, I will say the same of us in Kenya. Things have changed, and they've changed so fast for us here with technology, there's a lot of groups and organizations right now investing in Africa. So we are
Yeah.
seeing such a fast transformation that keeping up, is changing society. We used to be a bit more traditional, but now we are becoming, what you see in TV series and movies is the kind of life we are starting now to live here. And we haven't even moved from our tradition. So it's a time of transformation. We are trying to find ourselves. We voted for a new constitution in 2012 that is more involving, and it requires a lot of participation from citizens. We have sort of devolved our system. We've moved from a centralized system where decisions are made in Nairobi, our capital city, to a devolved system where every different places make their own decisions of how they'll govern themselves. Yeah. So it's such a period of flux, and we've made some mistakes. We are learning from those mistakes. It's really been a period of learning, but I think after some time we'll find our way and we'll stabilize. So I am with you. I think we are with Ukraine in just trying to find ourselves amidst all these changes, trying to contextualize this democracy to work for us, because we can't just borrow it wholesale. It needs to work
Yes.
with us. Yeah.
So it's a very
Thank you.
exciting phase, I think, for both the places, I think.
Thank you.
Moving.
But girls, we have very strong resistance from leader in Russia.
Yes.
And we have strong resistance, not only Ukrainians have this resistance, all the world now has this resistance. And maybe it's more painful for Putin to change old style of leadership for new style of leadership. And we are waiting for Russians.
And to change?
Yes.
Wow. I don't know, what would you say about India, Anu? What kind of period are you in right now, generally?
So we've been a democracy since say 19 from the time we got our independence. So we have been, as far as democracy is concerned, yes, we have been like that. We are a country with multiple political parties, with very diverse ideologies. So we have an issue of having too many political parties. We also like our transition is like we've got a lot of Western influence now in terms of the culture. So a lot of transition there, and the new generation, like my son, etc. They're in a very different world. They're growing mostly with the Western influence of music and the kind of programs they watch, etc. So we're having all that. As far as the leadership is concerned, like I said, it's been a democracy, but it's become more the current government is trying to be more inclusive in the sense, they use the internet. Our prime minister, is on Twitter. He tweets every day. They all, like most of the ministers, are very net savvy. They encourage people to send in their opinions. Our media has become extremely, there's been a lot of liberalization as far as media is concerned. So we have very open, strong debates, even against the ruling government. So a lot of changes happening from that part of it. For us also, this is a transformation from that point of view. Having been a democracy, but we didn't see so many of these things happening. But today, it's a far more open environment for us. Having said that, there are still certain elements who are not able to adjust to this new development, and they try to hold on to the old values, because like I said, there are multiple political parties, each with their own ideologies. Some of these ideologies are set in very long time back period, so they do try to put their issues, so even that happens. But so I think, we are also having a certain different type of transformation that's going on.
And now I have idea.
Yes.
An idea came to my heart. And what do you think if we apply for a women's forum? Let's organize women's forum about women's leadership, and maybe I agree to provide this forum in Ukraine.
I don't understand, Svetlana. How would you do that?
I don't know right now how to do it, but it's idea. Let's organize forum, like offline forum, not online, offline forum, like and collect women from different parts in the world in this forum, and organize offline conversation about role of women in influence on local communities. And let's collect this positive practice from the world and bring to one room.
That's very interesting.
And I think it will be great result of our online conversation.
It is an interesting thought. It is quite interesting. Nancy, what's your view?
I don't think I quite understood. Is it a seminar that will take place at Ukraine?
And I agree to be organized of forum to find right space in Ukraine and invite everybody in Ukraine, and let's organize offline conversation about role of women's role of influence in local communities. It will be international forum.
Online?
Offline. Offline.
Oh, okay.
So Nancy, she's inviting you to Ukraine to talk about role of women.
Oh, I think that will be lovely for me to see Ukraine.
Yeah.
When do you plan to hold the session?
And I don't know, first we must apply for grant. We must apply grant application for this opportunity, and let's apply it for international donors, and let's try to do it. Why not?
Yeah, it sounds like. Sorry, Anu.
No. Go ahead.
Yeah, I think it sounds like it will be a lovely idea, especially considering the context you've just described in Ukraine. Yeah, and I think we are ready to support you in whichever way.
Yeah.
Yes, and what about organize this forum by facilitation style of providing this type of event? Like let's use facilitation for this forum, and let's show maybe piece of training. Like we can include piece of your training, Anu, in this forum, and and let's provide like section of education about inclusive leadership, or Nancy can provide something.
So I mean, it could be a combination of, first of all, we have to decide the duration, but it could be a combination of training. You could have a moderated panel discussion where we can have, women leaders who have done community work in different countries, and can share how they went about doing, because I think that there'll be a lot of learning from that experience also, and then the participants can ask questions, so you can have a larger forum then,
Yes.
So we can look at a combination of things that can be done.
Okay,
that's my suggestion.
It's my suggestion also. let's try to do it. Let's start to work, and we don't know when it's happened. I mean, what time and in how many months it's happened, but let's start to think about it.
Sounds good. I have one suggestion for the next dialogue that we have. This is something which we are currently working on, and we've done some amount of work. We touched upon this topic today also, on women being self-leaders. Okay, like we spoke about the fact that we ourselves have certain barriers within us, maybe upbringing, our experiences, certain roles that we have defined for ourselves, and sometimes we don't see the opportunity which is right in front of us, or if we have seen it, we kind of discount it, saying that not now, I can't do it. So can we look at this as our next discussion, that do we as women, do we put certain barriers on us? If so, what kind of barriers do we put, and how can we develop as a leader, self-leader? How do we develop self-leadership within ourselves?
Oh, I love that topic. I think it's very personal. We keep on saying, the implication is that someone is holding us back, not ourselves. But I think part of it is ourselves. I think that I'm all for that.
Yeah. So can we look at the, I think let's do this maybe when even John is back, because he can also give his input from his experience also.
Yes, but he is a well-experienced guy. Yes,
yeah.
It's true. Yes, it's true. We need men. We are not feministic. We are not feministic. Okay, thank you. Thank you very much. And I think we have great great
Nancy,
result of this conversation. What?
Oh, those are the big five animals. Sorry. I think I'm just responding to Sajay, who said the animals are gone from Nairobi.
Yes.
But the big five are elephant, lion, and all that, yeah.
Okay, great.
Okay,
and let's give 10 seconds for each of us to say resume of today's conversation. What do you think? 10 seconds of each of you.
Yes. So who starts? Nancy?
Oh yeah. Yeah, for me it's been quite a nice discussion. I like it when we move from theory to how to make all these ideas practical, and I feel that's where we've been today. How practical can inclusive leadership be? And I think we've discussed that in detail. I'm very excited about the next topic, where we bring it to ourselves. Can we do this? Do we hold ourselves back and all that? Yeah.
And for me, it was really practical. Also, conversation, not because like crazy idea came to my my body, but because I understood what does it mean inclusive leadership, and what is difference from hierarchical leadership. And I understood that not only Ukraine is under the transformation, but Kenya also. People are under the transformation, and India also, and it seems like it's a global process. and hierarchical style of leadership must leave our world, and to give space for new style of leadership, which will be more effective, more influence, for useful for people. And I understand that the role of women are very important in this process.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
So for me, yeah, this conversation today has been really good because besides our conversation on inclusive leadership, and it was very interesting to listen to both your point of view, Svetlana and Nancy, on what inclusive leadership is and this whole thing of situational, and really looking at it from a practical point of view was an interesting part. The other thing was what's really got me excited is that something to look forward to is one is this offline that we are talking about. I think it is there is something which we can do differently, and it will be interesting to work with team which is we're not sitting in one place, we're sitting in different countries, and yet if we can bring together something, I think it will be a very powerful session. And also, yes, I suggested the topic for next week, and I'm very interested and excited about it because I know for myself that there are certain decisions I have taken based on that. And it's for me, this is personally very interesting to know what, each one our journey is and how it influences us.
Great, thank you. And I want to say thank you, Sergey, for technical support, and Media IC for technical support, and we feel ourselves very comfortable. And
yes, thank you, Sergey. Without you, we wouldn't have managed this.
And thank you,
Well,
Sergey.
Thank you.
And he showed different cities, and he showed Kiev, and I saw Nairobi, I saw India, and I saw Warsaw, and it was kind of interesting to see our cities during our conversation. Thank you, Sergey.
Yeah, thank you. Thanks, and bye.
And thank you, Mini Boss. And thank you, Mini Boss. We hope that next time we can hear you and see you. Thank you.
Oh yeah.
Okay.
Definitely.
Okay, and bye. See you next.
Yeah, see you next week. Bye, Svetlana. Bye, Nancy.
Bye.
Bye.
Bye. Bye.